Hello, everybody. This is Bradley Brunner, and today I want to talk about the topic of full body and upper lower split routines versus split routines. And by this, obviously, what I mean is the three basic templates, overall vague templates for bodybuilding. Maybe vague is not the appropriate word, more like general, what we classify our bodybuilding routines into. Usually, any bodybuilding program is referred to as a full body routine, an upper lower split, or simply a split, or maybe even an AB routine. But most AB routines are upper lower splits. That could be seen in the first AB routine used by Dorian Yates, in which he split his body parts up into two separate workouts and had it rotating throughout the week on a 3 times per week basis, where he'd perform, let's say, 3 times per week. Let's go with Monday, Wednesday, Friday, where he would perform workout A on Monday, workout B on Wednesday, workout A on Friday, and then coming into the next week, do the BAB rotation for the Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and then the following ABA. That was sort of like an upper-lower split. He trained chest, shoulders, and back in one day, and then the other day was legs and arms, which is basically the same split that Dante Trudel uses for the dog crap routine. And then you have the regular upper-lower split, where you just train the upper body one day and train the lower body the other day. And sometimes people come out with 2 separate workouts for their lower body and 2 separate workouts for their upper body, and just simply rotate throughout the week. Monday, Wednesday, Friday, upper body being trained on Monday, lower body being trained on Wednesday, upper body being trained on Friday, and then going into the next week, continuing the rotation as the weeks go by. Or simply they could hit the upper and lower parts of their body twice per week. So let's say on Monday you train upper, Tuesday you train lower, Wednesday could be off, Thursday you'll be training your upper body again, and Friday you'll be training your lower body. You'll be training your lower body. I might have gotten that sequence confused, but you get the point. And then there's the full body routines where you hit the whole body in one session, and then there are the split routines, which we commonly see amongst pro bodybuilders. That is most common amongst IFBB pros and maybe even some natural pros, guys who are way further along in their muscle building journey and just have to pretty much fine tune or maintain their muscle mass or bring up some weak points. But let's get into which type of split or routine is useful for different people with different aims in bodybuilding. Now, me personally, I recommend a full body routine to all beginning trainers. The most important thing for a beginning trainee is to learn the exercises and just simply get in the gym and learn what it's like to lift a weight. That's it. You just have to pretty much learn the basic exercises. Whether you cover the full body in just a few compound movements with a large amount of sets per exercise with few movements, let's say 3 to 5 exercises covering the whole body, or let's say doing more exercises with less sets. Either way is fine. That is the most useful for beginners. And a beginner actually recovers very quickly from each and every lift, meaning that if a beginner squats, they're not squatting much in most cases unless they're naturally strong. But even if they're naturally strong, they're not going to be squatting much. Their progress will be very fast on a full body routine as time goes on. It will be very quick, and they can probably graduate to an upper lower split or some other type of split much faster than someone who gains strength and muscle slower. But think about it. A beginner might be starting off squatting with either 95 pounds, maybe even the bar in some cases, or just 135 in their first few weeks of training, and that is not so devastating to them. Even if they go to failure, it is not devastating to them. They could go on and do their overhead presses, barbell row, bench press, and the fact that they squatted at the beginning of their program, it will not have any negative effects on the rest of the routine. So that's why they can hit each muscle group and pretty much train the entire body 3 times per week. I'm not saying there are no sophisticated advanced routines out there that don't hit the whole body. There are relatively strong people, very strong people, who are doing full body routines. I am not the expert on powerlifting, but there are full body building, advanced powerlifting routines rather, that hit the whole body in each session. If I have it right, the Shiko routine hits the body in the entire session, the entire body in one session, and Smolov has a powerlifter training his whole body in one session as well. But just to be generalized here, and the way I see my take on things being the average guy, as you can see from my videos, I go by what works for most average men. What is going to work for you? Because you're most likely a guy with just decent genetics or just average. And I've dealt with a lot of people. I've seen what can be done in the gym. I've seen how things go down and how the progress will be made. I can pretty much predict progress. How somebody's going to pan out, what someone's body's going to look like, whether they're a fast gainer, an average gainer, or a hard gainer. So the full body routine will go for the beginners, and then we can move on to, let's say, A-B splits or upper body routines where you train each muscle group once every 4 days. And I believe, or twice per week actually. Twice per week even better if you can fit 4 days of weight training into your routine. Some guys just find that 3 days per week just goes their lifestyle better, or that they don't have the time to train more than 3 days per week in the gym, or they simply they have poor recovery ability. And that's fine too if you just hit each muscle group once every 4 to 5 days with an A-B split or an upper body routine. At that point, I'm going to say that progress, much progress, could be made on an upper-lower routine or an A-B routine. The progress can continue indefinitely. In fact, I think that 90+%, maybe even more, 95+% of all naturals should be training with an A-B split or an upper-lower routine. During the time, it could be done indefinitely. It could be done during the time until they want to specialize in a body part. But even within an upper-lower routine, you can still specialize in body parts just simply by training the muscle group that you want to be caught up with the other muscle groups, or that you want to specialize in, training that muscle group at the beginning of your routine, and perhaps using more volume or an isolation exercise for that muscle group, and using more sets and exercises for that muscle group. But you don't go wild, especially in an upper-lower routine. Even with an upper-lower routine, you will be confined to doing only 1 or 2 exercises per muscle group. And that leads to another misconception that many people have, thinking that a split routine in which the muscle group is hit from every other end of the spectrum, that you have to include God knows how many exercises to stimulate a muscle, and God knows how many sets. And we often see that in the routines of IFBB pros, such as the routines that are listed on websites and magazines. And God knows if they're actually even following those routines where they hit each muscle group for 20 sets apiece. Who knows if that's what they're actually doing. And then let's move on to the split routines. The split routines, I think, probably have, not even think, I know that they have the highest failure rate. They produce the slowest or most abysmal results for most average people that I've seen. And no, folks, I'm not trying to be the world's foremost exercise and expert in bodybuilding. There are men who have done just fine on split routines, training each muscle group once per week with high volume, with a high amount of sets and a high amount of exercises, and they've done just fine. I have a WNBF pro friend who follows a 4-way split with a ton of volume. I once shared a back and biceps workout with him, and I enjoyed my time working out with him, but I simply wanted the workout to end already. It's not my style, but here's an example of someone who is very advanced, pretty good genetics, who has made progress for years on end, or did. He pretty much retired from bodybuilding now, with high volume. Those typical splits that we see where you train a muscle group or two on one day, you come in the next day, you train another muscle group or two that day, and so on and so forth until you have this training split where you're training 5 or 6 days per week and hitting each muscle group once or six to every 7 days, which I find really to be an abysmal frequency for average men. I advise you not to follow it if you're average with average structure and average strength inclinations. I made my best gains on upper lower splits. I'm still on upper lower split. I don't see that changing in the near future. But I didn't get back to who should be following the split routine. People who have great genetics and are on drugs likely will have, and great genetics and/or drug use will have the best results on the traditional split routines, the body part splits. So I advise you, if you're average, with an average life and average genetics and average structure, not to follow them. Just to recap here, before we are out of here, full body routine for beginners, upper lower splits, or an A-B routine for regular guys, and that will be useful for as long as you can milk it. And that will be a long time for most of you, I believe. Or just try to figure out a split where you can hit each muscle group once every 4 to 5 days. And then the split routine, probably for someone who's built nearly all the muscle mass they're going to build naturally and simply wants to touch up on certain muscle groups. More of a case of refinement, or if you have the great genetics and grow from haphazard routines, and or if you're using drugs. There you have it. And I didn't go into the whole premise of why you should be training this way. Let's just say that protein synthesis pretty much stops for an average trainee within, anywhere from probably 48 to 72 hours for a natural trainee, but I'm not going down that nerd road where we got to explain the minutiae of training and exercise science. Not into it. Not into the studies, not into breaking every little minutiae down. I'm just going by what works in the gym, and that's it. So, thank you for being again with me today, and I hope you have a great day.